All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're breaking down an incredibly high-stakes tactical chess match between Arsenal and Borussia Dortmund. We're cutting right through all that preseason noise and using just the raw match data and preview analysis to show you exactly where this game is going to be won and lost.
Look, let's dive into this with a massive caveat right up front. You have to completely ignore the scoreline today. Seriously. What we're watching on the pitch isn't just some casual friendly. This Emirates Cup clash is an absolute gut check for Arsenal, right before the Community Shield. Mikel Arteta has literally been echoing this sentiment all week, repeating a very specific mantra: performance over result. And you know why? Because after that absolute disaster against Real Betis, where they literally handed over 3 first-half errors, he desperately needs a clean sheet way more than a pretty goal. So here's our roadmap today. We'll quickly cover a high-stakes dress rehearsal, rebuilding the engine room, the tactical chess match, key individual battles, and finish up with the final verdict. Let's roll. Starting off with Section 1, a high-stakes dress rehearsal. Let's look at the context of this cup. You know, the contrast and pressure between these two dugouts today is just staggering. On one side, Arsenal is basically scrambling. They are absolutely desperate to fix those glaring defensive errors, specifically those 2 crucial mistakes we saw from Kepa last time out. But on the other side, Dortmund is chilling. They're just using this high-profile match to blood their young prospects, guys like Gyokeres and Gyokeres. Same pitch, entirely different stakes. Moving right along to Section 2, rebuilding the engine room. Arsenal's midfield's crisis. And guys, it really is a crisis. I mean, look at who is missing from Arsenal's midfield today. No Declan Rice, no Martin Odegaard, no Bukayo Saka. This team is literally operating on spare parts going into a match against a top-tier European giant. So the huge question for Arteta is, how on earth do you replace that massive level of production, leadership, and control against a really hungry Dortmund side? Well, his answer is a massive gamble. He's forced to ask teenagers, Lewis Skelly and Nwaneri, to step up and somehow outthink Dortmund's Jobe Bellingham. Bellingham might be young himself, but he's an incredibly hungry anchor in that midfield. Make no mistake, if Arsenal's kids lose this battle in the middle third, Arsenal loses the whole game. It's really that simple. And to make things even crazier, there is a £70 million shadow looming over the pitch today. That's the price tag of their new signing, Bruno Gyokeres, who is sitting right up in the stands because he isn't match fit yet. This means every single misplaced pass by Lewis Skelly or Nwaneri isn't just a simple mistake. It's going to be instantly and unfairly compared to the superstar sitting in the stadium. That is an immense psychological weight for these kids to carry. Right, into Section 3, the tactical chess match. Let's break down the formations and traps. When we look at the shifting shapes here, it gets fascinating. Arsenal will likely dominate the ball, maybe 70% possession, and their 4-3-3 is going to expand aggressively into a 2-3-5. But here is the catch. They're about to run into a brick wall. Dortmund's shape brilliantly compacts into this rigid 5-4-1 the second they lose the ball. With the middle completely choked out, honestly, don't be surprised if this whole game is decided by a set piece instead of open play. Navigating that absolute gridlock falls squarely on Kai Havertz. He's wearing the armband today, and his job is to be the metronome. His split-second reactions to Dortmund's pressing triggers are going to dictate everything. If Dortmund presses high and smothers him, Arsenal's build-up completely stalls out. But if Dortmund drops off even a fraction of an inch, Havertz can turn between the lines and instantly feed Gyokeres. But Dortmund isn't just parking the bus for fun. They are laying a very deliberate, very nasty trap. They're actively baiting Arsenal's fullbacks to push high up the pitch. The split-second Arsenal turns the ball over, Dortmund is going to spring Baer and Silva directly into those empty channels, bypassing the midfield entirely. Their target? Isolating 19-year-old Mosquera alongside veteran Gabriel to ruthlessly exploit that speed mismatch. Which brings us to Section 4, key individual battles. The game within the game. £60 million. That is the massive price tag strapped to Victor Gyokeres. With Arsenal's main creators missing today, literally all eyes of the Emirates will be on him to prove his worth up top. The problem for Gyokeres? The guy marking him is Gonzalo Inacio, who has basically been a human wall lately, conceding just 2 goals in his last 5 games. Watch Gyokeres' first touch closely today.
Because if Arsenal's young wingers get isolated on the flanks, which is super likely, the Swedes' clever off-the-shoulder movement against Inacio is going to be Arsenal's absolute only route to a goal.
And speaking of those young wingers, keep your eyes glued to 18-year-old Max Daumann. He's going head-to-head with Ben Sabini, a battle-tested veteran with over 200 Bundesliga matches under his belt. We actually have a brilliant little litmus test for the teenager today. Just watch his first 5 minutes. If Daumann gets the ball, cuts inside, and fires a shot, he's fearless and ready for this stage. If he safely passes it backward, he's just not ready yet. There is no middle ground. Finally, we gotta talk about the nervous energy between the posts. Kepa is starting simply because Raya is still resting up from the World Cup. But coming off those 2 flapping errors against Betis, Kepa's confidence has gotta be fragile. Dortmund knows this for sure. Look for their wide men to deliberately and repeatedly bomb the 6-yard box with crosses. Every single high ball today is a direct, calculated test of the goalkeeper's nerve.
Okay, Section 5, the final verdict. What does victory actually look like today?
So the predictive models out there are calling for a 2-1 Arsenal win. But honestly, the true metrics for success today are completely different for both clubs. The real victory for Arteta has nothing to do with scoring twice. It's about locking down a clean sheet for the first 45 minutes to restore defensive stability and just stop heads from dropping. And for Dortmund, a win simply means successfully testing out their tactical traps and getting out of London without a single injury to their young squad. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this to chew on while you watch the match. If Gyokeres fails to fire against Inacio, and if Arsenal's teenagers crumble in the midfield under the massive weight of that 70 million pound shadow up in the stands, is mere defensive survival and a clean sheet really going to be enough to keep Arsenal's Community Shield hopes alive? Keep your eyes on the tactics today, not just the ball. Thanks for learning with us, and enjoy the match.